For our speakers, please welcome Yannis Kyriakopoulos, the chairman of the board, Piraeus Bank of Ukraine. Yannis. Alessandro Zanelli, CEO of Nestlé South Eastern Europe. Please welcome Oliver Gierlichs, Managing Director, CFO of Bayer. He is also board member of EBA and president of German-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce. And the last person, Ievgenii Ivanytsia, country director for JYSK Ukraine.
Thank you.
All right, we have the best team, trust me.
Basically, we want to start here, 5, maximum 10 minutes from each of you, introductory remarks, to talk about basically connecting a lot of the issues we just spoke about. My presentation from Alexei Sobolyev, from Volodymyr Lepushinsky, and then connecting that to what does it mean for top businesses here in Ukraine, from the finance sector, from Bayer, from Nestlé, from JYSK. So,
in general, the business have not been bad. In consumer, obviously, is even better. For banking business, they did very well so far. We do not see any problem in business. We do not see any defaults. We do not see any inability of people to deal with deficits in energy, because already they have been tested. Mm-hmm. However, we do not see people planning long term. Mm-hmm. Especially in the small business. I think that the trade helps, so they don't have to invest a lot, only for the infrastructure regarding critical things like energy. And we do not see actually this, because this is reflected in the way loans have been progressing. There has been an increase of about 9%, roughly, mm-hmm.
Right.
About 82 billion hryvnia, of which 46 is corporate, 36 is consumer, and I read your yesterday's, I think, news that the personal credit has increased.
Yes.
It was worrying that I also read that the pawn shops have been increasing, and we've seen this increase as well during mm-hmm. the crisis, which it ended up in a disaster for personal wealth and people. I don't know if this is the case here. So in general, I'm positive, actually. Of course, everything depends on the intensity of the war, but in general, and I'm sure the other honorable speakers will confirm that, as they are big investors in the country.
Mm-hmm. But Yannis, so when we talk about the investments, so what do you mean by that? I heard that you guys were opening new branches of the bank, and
Yes.
Can you tell about more?
Well, Nestlé obviously is being the factory. The bank is opening branches and is investing in digital infrastructure and in personnel as well. I saw the statistics that there's a big difficulty in terms of personnel and resources. We do see that in the industry. In banking, we do not see that much, I have to say, because it is services, and you can even retrain people very quickly as long as they have a general understanding of the banking environment. So we've opened 5 branches in the past few months.
5?
5, yes. We see that as an opportunity, not because other people are withdrawing, because the others had too many. And even now, if you have read yesterday, that's again an innovative act from NBU. They're going to give license of a specific nature for what they call financial inclusive banking. And for me, this is a great move, mm-hmm. And definitely will help a lot population, safety nets, and definitely economic activity for the country. So this is where we invest as well. Actually, we do spend a lot of money in each branch we do. It's not about luxury only, it's about also whether it can function properly, especially taking into account the new requirements for the incapacitated people, especially the war veterans that are coming back. And most of our efforts will be focusing on this, and the country in general. I mean, they're going to focus on this because the resources are so scarce, and these people will play an important role in the economy of the country, and especially as private entrepreneurs.
Right.
So we try to prepare ourselves for this.
Yeah, Yannis, any comments on businesses approaching for debt financing?
Right. I think that we're still not going to see long-term money coming in to fund investment projects, but definitely we can see more working capital. I think that the lower interest rates and the new products from the IFIs that combine a loan with a grant have become very popular, and I think that we've already actually subscribed to that. We are going to cooperate actually. We're restarting lending. We did support our old customers, but now through various programs with DFC and other supranational institutions, we are actually restarting lending new customers, especially in agribusiness. And we have signed this agreement with another 17 banks for energy, and we're going to join as well, financing people for obtaining, buying, acquiring infrastructure for energy. So in general, I think that there is a lot of money there for those who want to borrow. I think that the main role here is being played by the state banks, and I think it was expected to be so. I think that now the private banks are more into this game, as they have seen already. They have created some history of behavior. We do not see any NPLs in the country. This is amazing. This is one of the wonders of the country and the banking sector, how this country managed to have, of course, regulator has played an important role, the NBU, and the banks, of course. And this might be a paradigm actually for the whole world, how we survive. Based on this, it means there are also strong criteria, actually qualitative-wise, that make this thing of a rising NPLs not to happen. So this is also a good thing, and we can be trusted, let's call it like this, and the regulator, that actually we're going to the right direction. Actually, unfortunately, I'm not a consumer bank. I mean, we're mostly in business lending.
Right.
But what we see is that, and this is for us very important, the deposits have increased faster than the loans. So there is saving. And for me, I don't know if that can be translated as actually a pause in demand. But on the other hand, you had about 36 billion hryvnia increase only in 7 months of the year. So I think people do not plan, they go by the day. And they take consumer loans for very short term. So I think that may continue. Obviously, Kiev is Kiev. I mean, you cannot judge the whole market.
So any comments about lending environment, impact on your business from any?
I would say for a company like Nestlé, where we have self-financing, is less relevant.
Right.
But it all goes with the ability to kind of transform and have an identity on which kind of business you want to have. If you are in fast-moving consumer goods now, you need to go with a point of there are 10 million less consumers, and therefore you need to find a way on what kind of objective you have, and how your company can still produce the same amounts. And I mean transforming the direction you're going more for export, for example, is a fantastic opportunity, and going more for value. Consumers are really asking for quality products now. Surprisingly, brands are more in, let's say, in trend now than they used to be, because they understand that quality of the products and consistency of the quality is there. So investing in this direction, investing in quality, is one of the directions or two of the directions that I am suggesting to FMCG. And this is part of the transformation we are making. When I will talk about, I will tell you also how much we are transforming ourselves in this direction.
Interesting. Okay.
Oliver?
Yeah, Oliver, I'll let you then continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a different sector. You may know we are here in agro. We sell our pharmaceuticals, the prescription drugs, but also the non-prescription drugs. we are producing seeds here. So we are producing here, we are selling here. We don't have a chance to export our money, our dividends. We are investing money in our plant, 60 million. But just like Nestlé, we are also self-sustained. So we may have bridge loans because we are selling the seeds at some part of the season. We get the money at another part, so there may be some bridging. But as such, we are a pretty healthy company. So loans is not the driver for us. And therefore, yeah, with the banking sector, yeah, we do have contacts. We have loans, but it's a minor topic for us.
Small.
It doesn't influence us so much. We're not so much depending on that.
Okay.
JYSK company, the company keep on opening new stores. Please comment on that, Ievgenii.
You are correct. Next week we are actually going to celebrate 20 years in Ukraine. It's a quite important milestone for our company in Ukraine. And also next week we are going to open store number 100 in Ukraine. That's going to be in Gierlichs. If you ask what was our...
Don't forget, that's the jobs. That's like the companies investing. They're thinking about there is opportunity. They don't wait for the end of the war. They're doing that right now because when, I mean, let's assume out of these 6-7 million people, 2 million come back. They will use those stores. I mean, go ahead, Ievgenii.
If I should bring some numbers to describe how we are doing during the full-scale war, we have opened 20 stores since 24th of February 2022, and we also renovate after heavy damage 6 more stores. So from this point of view, we are doing a lot to invest and to improve our presence on the market. We cannot, based on JYSK, decide if retail in general doing good or bad. We are probably special case in this situation. If I should say something about competitors or our market, I would say I can see a lot of movements. We can see Inditex return. We can see a lot of local players like Aurora booming. We can see also LPP who are booming, opening rapidly, different brands of their stores. So I would say I can say that I can see a lot of development on our market.
Can you give, like, if you don't mind, a few numbers? So if you cannot talk about specific numbers, I just want to see how you guys doing compared to 2022, 2023. My main question, did you get back to the same numbers of 2021 so far? And just give us like brief description of what is happening.
It's very important to be specific when you talk about numbers because first, we didn't have any single year when we drop in numbers. Oh. When we speak about sales in number of customers or in local currency, in hryvnias, we have been growing steadily all the years, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24.
That's a truly special case, to be honest with you.
And if you ask about the last financial year, we just finished in August. We just have started new financial year, 1st of September. We have opened 10 stores, and we have rearranged, now I can make a mistake, we have rearranged 12 stores, and we have opened 10 stores. We just opened 1 store less than we have planned. Otherwise, we have done what we have planned. Number of customers have grown. We're doing okay, even if you compare JYSK compared to other countries where JYSK presence. If you talk about the number of customers per store, we're doing okay in Ukraine. Sales per customer are struggling. We are the weakest in JYSK.
So the sales per customer decreased?
The lowest in the whole group, among the 48 countries where JYSK exists right now, we have the lowest sales per customer. But that's obvious, I would say. That's how things are in Ukraine.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's go back, Alessandro. Let's go back to the sort of the core of this event, planning for next year. Where is business to date?
Congratulations for the 20 years. Nestlé is celebrating 30 years presence of
no competition.
Nestlé in Ukraine this year. And we started last June, and we consider it as an anniversary, so we continue to be present here. So we have been here almost from the beginning of the independence of Ukraine, and we are very proud of that. So how is it? How is the business going? And I think I can refer in general of food or FMCG. I have to say the business is doing very well, and I'm always shy when I say that, because in this moment to talk about business performance when we have the situation that we need to manage is always complicated. To give you also a parameter, Nestlé does not assign business targets since the beginning of the war to Ukraine. I'm in charge of a bigger region, but for this specific market, we don't have business targets because our job here is clearly to secure the safety of the people, have a business continuity in terms of securing the assets, and obviously offering a helping hand to the society and to the communities, having the role to play. But this year we will close the year more or less with just short of 10% growth overall as a business. As you know, we are present in a lot of categories, from baby food to coffee, of course, with Nescafé brands, to confectionery. We have a number of iconic global brands, Nescafé, KitKat, Felix, and we have local Heartland brands, Mivina, Torchin, Svitoc. So we cover the needs of the consumers. So we have always a balance between certain categories which are doing better. In this year, for example, coffee and confectionery are doing extremely well, together with pet care. Categories which are doing less well, and you can imagine why, like infant nutrition and baby food, obviously because of the rate, the birth rate dropping. To continue also on your question, how we're doing versus, I would say the business never stopped, and that's what is incredible. The business grown in 2022, although it was a specific reason, many producers were not able to produce anymore. We were those that were able still to produce. So we grown in 2022. We dropped significantly in 2022 on the volumes because we have a factory in Kharkiv, and the factory in Kharkiv was not working for the whole 2022. And then we returned to production in 2022, so in 2023. So 2023 was an important year to reboost a little bit of the volumes. And this year I'm very happy because I said we will be short of 10% growth, but this growth is mainly volume growth. So in line with what you were showing, the inflation, we also act responsibly on not driving pricing significantly. So the inflation went down, although prices are already very high. So the inflation is mitigating on a very high level of pricing, and therefore this clearly impacts consumer. That's why we return to a kind of business as usual with customers, where you have to increase the promotional intensity to attract consumers to the shelves. I was saying, yes, we celebrate our 30th years a year, and what is the best way to celebrate it? By opening a factory. So we will open a factory at the end of the year. This goes hand in hand with what I was talking about before, the transformation. One thing which is important, in the increase of the volumes that we have this year, we increase 30% our export. So we are used to be, in Ukraine, we used to have factories for local to local, as we say in Nestlé, so for local consumption. But of course, because we have lost 25% of consumers, and they have fundamentally low purchase power, we reinvent ourselves a bit. So we are becoming much more an export unit for Nestlé. And these new investments that we are making in Volyn region, you need to look into the idea of transforming our setup and our industrial setup. In fact, there we have already a factory which produces, I hope you know, Torchin ketchup, at least you use sometimes. Close to that, we will open another factory, and this will be a food hub, mainly focused for export, because obviously that's our vision for that food hub. So transforming in this sense, and we are doing it during the war. And this is what makes me and the group extremely proud, that we are doing now, because everybody will be able to invest the second day after the war is finished. But to invest now, I think it's a proof of commitment, is a proof of demonstration that we believe, of course, in the business in Ukraine.
Yeah. Follow
Way to go, Oliver.
It's another big investment.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
the follow-up question, just at the first event, we had a head of Johnson & Johnson, right, Yannis, and he said that the trends, I mean, they have so many different products. The trends have changed because some of the trends that were not selling that good during the peace times now doing so much better. My question is, do you have, like you have so many different brands, do you have some kind of changes of, I don't know, the sales or the consumer's interests or like?
Oh, definitely. And thank you for the question, because it's not only the trends are different, but in order to perform, and going back to the transformation, you need to look at your portfolio and be relevant with your portfolio now. We used to sell a lot of big quantities. Well, after the heat of the summer, you can imagine that small portions are much higher in request, even for shelf-stable goods compared to what we were selling before. So trends are changing in the sense that there is clearly a move to, as I mentioned before, to return to brands for the Ukrainian consumers. There is a visit to big stores. Also, there is a decline of small stores. Mamas and Papas, they are closing. And there is a return to big surface. And therefore, bigger baskets there where there is more promotions. So intensity of promotion is very important. It's, now we were looking at within the market that I'm responsible, let's say, from Slovenia to here, the highest promotional intensity is actually in Ukraine in this moment. So we return to very, very heavy promotion, deep promotions.
So
of course.
Marketing drives the sales.
Yes, partnership with customers. You were saying before that customers, they make a lot of money. Well, they return to have a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
But they need to invest a lot with consumers to make them coming back to them with intensity of promotions.
True. How about, I wanted to ask the question about, do you see any change in your stores, like behavior, the consumer's behavior, okay? Because we see that, we understand that, like, I mean, as I said, like there's so many companies that showing that, look, we've never sold much of that product, but now we're producing more because we see here more demand and the markup is higher and so on and so on. Is the behavior of consumers changing?
Yeah, sure, Andrew. Afterwards, we also could see big changes because of internal migration from the east to the west. We also could see demand on the pillows, mattresses, because a lot of people needed to establish their new locations. Then first autumn, and then everyone needs bulbs, some batteries, anything to make a local lighting, all this kind of stuff.
Necessities.
Yes, sure, behavior is changing constantly, and we can see that even, I would say, if you remember first 2022, autumn and spring, and 2023, autumn and spring, we could see a huge increase in demand for Christmas articles. I cannot explain that. Listen, we need to order articles. It's a very short season, really short season.
My wife is sitting right here. She bought all this stuff, and they still have those little, like those little
elves.
Elves, yeah. There's like they still like looking at us like from second floor. I swear to God.
Yeah,
I love them so much.
Listen, we need to forecast the number of these elves to be purchased and delivered to the stores and to be sold very short period of time. And it's hard to guess that people really need it. But people need it because when they buy them, there's like a treatment, mental treatment for them. They believe that everything's fine. We saw that. I cannot explain that, but we saw that trends. Maybe later someone will explain that. But yes, it's constantly changes situation. It's not a common, and it's very different from the east to the west.
And you know what? Interesting thing. I have Sergey here. He's from Winner Group, right? These guys are selling cars. I can't explain it. When the war started, these guys, they said they're doing well. I mean, and you know what? It's horrible times, but I feel like people started more appreciating those little holidays where they
Absolutely. What we can see is that we still running stores in Kharkiv, in Sumy, in Zaporizhia, and we have around 17 stores located quite a close proximity to the front line. And those people really appreciate, and especially that was visible back in 2022, that people could come back to normal life, so they could come to JYSK and see this surrounding, this store, this something what they could connect with a peaceful life. So for them, that was really important.
So if I can just leverage
sure, go ahead.
on that, I can see that happening as well. You ask if the trends are changing. Well, the customer profile, the consumer profile changed. You were mentioning health and so on. Well, I was mentioning why confectionery products are growing, because people need indulgence, needs somehow to compensate the sad moments, and chocolate, coffee are clearly something that can compensate.
And this is, I feel like I asked a couple of people, why you bought a car? I was like, listen, I've been dreaming to buy a car for such a long time, and it feels like I don't know how long my life is going to be. And this is like what I see like in the banking sector. They started lending money more actively, especially with the programs and Sara. And we spoke to the Winner Group, and there was like, Andrew, I mean, sometimes it's really hard to explain that behavior, and I feel like the changing behavior is actually moving those trends.
Yeah, but I have to start to say congratulations for the 20 years, congratulations for the 30 years. In November, we have 32 years.
It's a good one.
Fisherman competition now. How big is your fish?
All right, we can all go home. Buy your one.
So, as I mentioned before, we are in 3 businesses here: agro, prescription drugs, and non-prescription drugs, and every market behaves differently and has different parameters. Our biggest market here in Ukraine is agro. Agro is complicated business if you don't have a war, and it becomes more complicated when you have a war. So a farmer has to take a decision at the beginning of the season: what do I grow? Where do I think will be the commodity prices, which can fluctuate quite a bit? And there are other big countries who are producing corn, wheat, and other products, sunflower. So where will the prices be? What will be the input cost? What will be the climate? So there are a couple of hard decisions to take with a lot of unknown parameters. During the war, you have on top, and we had it particularly in 22, can I export my product? Do I have a way out? And you have probably all heard about that. Black Sea harbors closed, everybody trying to get it out by train, by truck, by river boat, and that was by far not developed and not enough to get all these quantities that Ukraine is producing out. This works much better. The Odessa port works extremely well. Our prediction, and from the market in general, is also in 25 that will not change. A big topic in agriculture now is mobilization. Farmers have to deal with the fact that tractor drivers are very popular with the army. They know how to drive heavy equipment. So you take a couple of those, and the farmer basically works half of his fields. That's a big topic. Then another one is commodity prices. We have seen the issues of silos at some stage that were destroyed. That is not so much a problem now, but for us as a company, as Bayer, it is in a way, because again, talking about the decisions of a farmer, if you grow corn, just to give you an example, per hectare you make roughly 12, 14 tons. You grow wheat, you make half of it, but the margins are similar. So if you have problems to transport product or to store product, you rather go to wheat than to corn. We are market leader in corn. So we have seen a shift from farmers to go from one to the other, at least temporarily. And that counts for several crops that are out there in the market. So talking about shifts, here we see one of them. So another one here is if you grow corn, you can basically only do it if you buy the corn seeds. Because it's not because of any GMO, which is forbidden in Ukraine and which it's not sold, but the corn that you get today is the same like, Olympic Games. If you tell a 100-meter sprinter to not train for 3 months and then go to a competition, guess what? He will never win, even if he's world champion. With the corn, it's the same. This is high-performance corn. If you use corn from the last season because it's already mixed and it's not the pure corn anymore, it's just nature, it's Darwin, it's 30% less in average of yield. So, which means if you want to grow corn, you have to buy it. And if you make this investment at the beginning of the season, you have to know that you go for fertilizer, for crop protection products, you need to have the access to diesel, to the tractor driver, etc. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. There are other crops which are less risky in that sense. So in a stable time, growing corn is a very good thing because it brings you a lot of money. In uncertain times, it brings a lot of risk. So how big is the risk appetite of farmers to do this or different things? And that is the question here. And that counts for different crops. You know, there's a sunflower out here. Ukraine is producing 50% of the world market and a lot of other things. So that is something that we are accompanying and that we are seeing as trends and where we are giving our best advice to farmers what we can do or what we would explain them or advise them to do. So that's one of the topics. If we go to the pharmaceutical market, of course, there's a moral obligation for a company like ours to donate as much as we can. And this is something we have done. I mean, we are actually sort of the inventor of antibiotics at Bayer. And today we are not so big in that market anymore, but we still have some of them, and we have donated and continue to donate. Same for contrast media, to scan soldiers for bullets, etc. So all these kind of things. Basically what you can say is whenever there's something worldwide that can be donated in the pharmaceutical area, the first question comes to Ukraine if we need it, if we want it. And we talk to the Ministry of Health if they need it. And then depending on their answer, those products come here or not. This goes partly to a level that, influences our business. But that is, again, that is our view on what we can do for the country. So we have been donating, we continue to do so, and nevertheless, we are still growing quite a bit. We had a drop in 22, which was not so much linked to the war. That has to do with our specific product portfolio. We have a product that is a blood thinner. And there was something in the past, you may remember that, long away, Corona. Yeah. So
Not the beer.
Not the beer. So in 21, 22, people came into the hospital, and the biggest issue of these people was the blood clotting in the lungs. That's where many people unfortunately passed away from. So this product was the gold standard to avoid that. So the drop that we had was not because of the war, it was because Corona didn't play a role anymore. So that's why we had a drop at that time. Now we are again back on a growth path in pharmaceuticals. And it's a steady market. It's a market where we would say midterm, long term, that's an area that Ukraine certainly has to develop for several reasons. First of all, because the market here as such is still not on the level that you would expect, for example, in many European Union countries. Many costs are out of pocket. People cannot afford adequate treatment. And if we think about all these things that you hear now, when and how many people will come back to Ukraine, they of course compare the living conditions. They say, how was it for me to live in Poland, in Germany, in France, in Italy, somewhere else? And then they say, oh, healthcare was quite good there. And I could afford it because I had an insurance. Here I don't have that. So maybe the doctors are good, but then he tells me buy this medicine and I can't afford it. So here are things to do because people just expect that. Otherwise, many people will not come back. They don't. Everybody talks about the infrastructure, rebuilding houses, but education, healthcare, these are things that also belong to it. And talking about the non-prescription drugs, so what we have there, aspirin, Alka-Seltzer, vitamins, this famous Bepanthen cream and other products. We also saw a big drop in 22 for the simple reason that the customers left. The customers are mainly women and the children. The woman is the person who decides, do we buy vitamins for the children? Does our baby need the Bepanthen cream for the butt and so on? So the customers had gone widely, and even if not, and only the woman, even if it's single, left, the decision maker of the family was not there. So that was the reason why we saw a dip there. In 23, lots of people came back, and that's what we saw also in our business. So as I mentioned before, a lot of different drivers for each market. What remains the same for us as for Alessandro's business. In February 22, our priorities shifted to very clear three things. First one was security and safety of our employees. Second was business continuity. The third one was donations. So how do we make best use of what we can give, what we can do? And being at Bayer with, again, food and health, that is, of course, at the core of the needs of a country in war. So that's where we thought we also have our expertise here, not only the products, and that's what we try to do. So we have donated a lot to smallholder farmers who would never have been able to buy corn seeds, for example, or vegetable seeds at the frontline communities to avoid hunger. So this kind of things, and that goes across all businesses, plus money donation. So that's something. The other one was to ensure to our people that we have stable positions. So they were fearing that we might close the business, and we were well advised to tell them from the very beginning, no, we are not doing it. We increased salaries in the first year by the inflation, so more than 30%. We gave job guarantees, and that continues. And then, as Alessandro said, what can you do best if you're 32 years in the country? You invest.
Oliver, so in order to finish that, and I want you to answer, the number of employees compared to 2022, increased or decreased?
Increased.
What about you?
Increased.
What about you?
Significantly increased, and we are in trouble now because we cannot hire enough.
Oh,
Significantly increased.
so this is a good point. Like, this is what we want, like, people and companies to hear, like, what is happening. I understand you can say, oh, Andrew, you know what? You pick up the wealthiest companies, but it's still a signal. We understand it's not ideal situation for all the businesses, but it's a huge signal. Okay, so I would propose right now, so we're in business, and really, really important topic to discuss, what you see this country needs to change in order to attract more investments. Okay, here's the situation in 2 words. Who is investing in Ukraine at the moment? The new investments are not coming at such a high speed. Mostly who invested in this country is the businesses who've been in these countries for a long time. You already guys know the rules of the game. So this is, you kind of already see, okay, here is opportunity. But it's really hard, truly hard to convince. And I and Mark were speaking to the companies who are looking forward to come to this country. And they was like, look, Andrew, okay, I can have 10% of return in my country. if I look at your country, 15% of return with war risk and corruption and this, doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we trying to explain and what actually government should do. Maybe government should give some incentives, maybe tax-free period for 2 years. Or, so I want to hear, like, from your point of view, you guys have been in business for a very long time. You know all the issues this country, this market has. What's your opinion? We'll start with Yannis.
Fully agree. Only when you're here, you will be the potential investor. I don't think that anybody from abroad will come to this country to invest at this point in time. I find it very hard to believe, especially when he's in the middle tier. Probably would make sense for something very big, which would be involving governments, infrastructure, fully risk insured with provision of full leverage. And of course, that's a benefit to the new investor with a lot of tax breaks, with a lot of incentives. And in fact, that would be the only category of an investor that will come here because you would be pushed by government, pushed by the European Union or United States, and will be heavily supported by the government here. These companies, I don't know how many there are in the world, but there are very, very few. So only large.
And that can afford losses in case.
It's not about losses because that's why I said about the risk insurance.
Yeah.
That will be developed, and in any case, it's easier for the large-scale projects than actually for the retail. And that is something that it's one of the small things that have to be transformed, and that is actually the key that they're looking for investments, but they would not be coming from abroad unless they have these characteristics. They have to focus on investments here. The money are here. The banks actually are very much willing, at least the supranational ones, to support these investments. I remember the MHP last year, I think they gave something like 500 million supported by DFC and EBRD.
Right.
So this is the scale, and it happened from a local one.
Yes.
These guys have been here, have been, for 30 years. I mean, they know the country. They can bear the risk. They're of a global reach. They have experience of wars as well. I mean, you were established 150 years ago. I was looking because we're only 110. Okay, 160. So, okay, so I can put some parameters. You're even older than us. But actually, the bank I was working before, it was 1826. It was a bit older than yours.
Okay.
But you know what I mean? I mean, but with consistent management and the global rate, so you know better. And when you see these guys investing, I think that's the signal. They know, I mean,
They know something.
They know something, and I've heard gentlemen from Bayer in London, and I was impressed, by the composure and also by the stance of the companies that are companies that everybody knows. I mean, using the products, it's not, they're serious people. So this is more of a marketing essence than anything else for the government and anybody else to go out and advertise what the foreigners do.
Great. Thank you, Yannis.
Yannis, I think you frame it and you spell it very well. Because it's difficult if you are not present here, to understand. I just want to add a little bit. There are industries that are fast growing. And we heard the Ministry of, now he's in a new function, but when he was talking as a Ministry of strategic industry, that there is a big deficit in the military industry. So, for example, there should be more infusion of investments and money for the military industry. And there are many other industries that are really developing. So we should keep in talking about the possibility of investing in Ukraine. When we decided the investment, and this is a little bit of a story, there was, of course, different opportunities to invest for the same type of factory in other places. But companies like Nestlé, they are not only having, let's say, the financial directors, they have also a heart and a soul. And they understood that investing in Ukraine will be something that will be memorable. Investing in another place, nobody will notice. So we said, okay, we decide based not only on the return of investment, but on what that means for the company, for the people. And we should try to stimulate that as well, of what that means in investing now. You mentioned one of the key elements, insurance guarantee. I would say we need to see from the government that there is an attention to the business front as much as the war front. So there is a business front as well as the war front. And we need to see more interest in that, in helping to find the right people. We were discussing about shortage of people. In this moment, this is the biggest issue we have. Shortage of qualified people. We lost 30% of the workforce, let's be honest. And within the female workforce, this is a bigger portion, right? So how to find the right people? But if there is a threat of recruitment and so on, of course, it's always a complication. So we should see more attention from the government on the business front. As well as, of course, what is a little bit scaring additional investments is also related to the instability, of course, the war, but the undesired elements of the war. The electricity blackout has created big, massive disruption, and therefore, this will stay. This is difficult to see the solutions. We were talking about preparing for the winter, and you were talking about preparing for the winter. In Nestlé, we realized we need to pass the summer before. Because when shops didn't have refrigeration, when shops have to close, we were throwing away and we have to withdraw all our confectionery product because simply was melting on the shelves. So yes, electricity blackout for the winter, but I can tell you for the summer it was very, very painful. And we are in an industry which is safe. I can imagine for hospitals, for people that has to go through medical treatment and so on, the summer was equally difficult as it will be the winter. Yeah. So let's encourage the government to have a more attention to the business front. That's my call to action.
Oliver?
I have maybe still a different angle from where I'm coming. As we are investing, I have been asked now for 2 years to talk for Ukraine Invest, AHK and others, EBA, to talk in investors' conferences to convince people that they should invest, why we are doing it, how we are doing it. The point here is you see a lot of interest from companies outside, and I agree with you that mostly companies inside that are already here now invest, but there's a lot of interest from companies from outside. But you see this kind of, yeah, I would like to, but what is the right moment? Should I go now or later? And so I think what needs to be done now is you need to change a little bit what has been done. The instruments are there, but they have to be re-looked. If you look at the most instruments that you have here, these instruments are mainly made for companies coming from outside. Yeah. Make it tailor-made. Make it very clear. Look, here's a set of instruments for those who are here. Here's a set of instruments for the others. If the company are still not coming, you can have two things. One thing is to say, okay, I'll wait until the war is over. That's it. We don't get them. The second one is to say, what else do I have to give them as a goodie to make them come in? And this one goodie for me is distinguish between those that would come now and that come after the martial law. If you tell people, whoever comes during martial law and then is exempted 2, 3, 5 years, whatever, from a corporate tax, from something, this company would say, oh gosh, look, if I invest now, in the first 5 years after the war, I have an incredible financial advantage compared to my competitors.
For example, sorry for cutting you off. For example, you come in to this country during the war, just assume everyone else is paying 20%. You guys are going to be paying 10% tax for the next 5 years after the war. But this is what I would say this is a good incentive.
Yes, absolutely. And if you are new, let's take a concrete example. there's nothing good about the war. That's for sure. But if you want to find something, the only good thing maybe is that the Russians are now destroying old Soviet infrastructure, which is obsolete. So everybody talks about build back better, to emphasize for me on better. Which means for me, if you rebuild now houses, build them CO2 efficient, for example, energy efficient. Do we see that? Has anybody talked to the Ministry here of Construction and Infrastructure? I can tell you no. It's not happening. So if you have a company, let's say German company, mid-sized family-owned company, they have one factory somewhere in Germany, and they would say, I would love to reconstruct Ukraine for whatever I can do, but I cannot transport my stuff from here to Ukraine. The transport cost would kill it. I have to build a factory there. But I know that my materials are more expensive than the basic cheap materials. If we continue the same way as until now, there's a tender, the cheapest wins, and then you have no discrimination, but let's say a Turkish company building as cheap as possible. There's no advantage, there's nothing new. If Ukraine wants to get into the EU, one of the questions will be, how much CO2 do you bring in? Because EU wants to be CO2 neutral. That answer that Ukraine will have to give at that moment is very bad. That will not make them laugh. So, if now, that's the first step, the ministry would say, we look into the future. We want to build from now on buildings that are CO2 efficient. The first incentive for this company in Germany, and it can be an Italian, it can be a Spanish, it can be a Ukrainian who develops things in R&D, but that has not done it because it just was not worth to do it, because you never could sell it for the cost. So now they would say, now it makes sense to be there. Then you give on top what I just mentioned before, this little incentive, that company would straight away come here and say, I want to build now, I want to get my production site facility now, I want to hire the people now, I want to train them now, and when the others are coming after the war, I have this cost advantage, I have my people trained, I can start immediately when the reconstruction starts, and probably I have already done a couple of things before, so I trained already a bit how it works here, and that would work. But I think there still has to happen a little bit from also here from the government. And let's face it, the option is either you get nothing, because these investors will not come, or earliest after the war, or you say, they are coming now. I don't get all the corporate taxes, but I get employment, I get investment in the country, I get the taxes from the employees, etc. So I think I don't like that idea to give up on those investors that are not here yet. I know it's not easy, but I think something can be done.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. Evgeny, so your view on that?
Let's see if I am a dreamer or not. I could dream state and government to help us with the issues we are facing with. Air alarm we have right now. State cannot help me with this. Some of our stores are operating close to the front line. Let's say in Kharkiv, some air alarms duration is more than 2 days. I cannot expect they can help me somehow. Last year, we have faced with a blockage of the border in between Poland and Ukraine. We have lost hundreds of millions because of that. We couldn't get our articles in time. Transportation, not straight from Poland to Ukraine, but over Hungary, Slovakia, Romania. That it was a much longer lead time. That was times more. Could state do something more? Probably. I cannot expect that will not happen again. The same goes with all the permits transport company needs to provide this service for all the retailers who are on the market. We could talk about the controlling departments like customers protection department, who we have had recently visit to our stores in Zaporizhia, who are trying to protect customers and secure that we are providing information for the electricity lamp bulb, how fast the light is coming. Is it within 0.01 second or 0.02 seconds? I do not know if that's really some extra value for the customer. I was usually pretend that you provide more was the law pretend, and our delivery service, our guarantee policies are actually exceed expectation from the law. But just summarizing, we are not put more demands. We are, maybe because I'm also local, we get used to the reality how it is and trying to do ourselves. We are probably, from what I have heard from you, probably outage, the biggest issue we are facing with. Even we have some alternative electricity supply in all our stores. Somewhere that is a diesel generator from the shopping mall, somewhere it's a local small JYSK established in a store, or power banks. Still, it's the biggest challenge and the biggest risk where I would say state could do the most. Yeah. But still, I cannot pretend or I cannot put this pressure on the state.
In May and June, there was like, we have to survive this winter, and I think we have to resolve this problem ourselves. So this is how they started buying huge generators. I don't know how that equipment, gas equipment that producing electricity as well. So now I see most of the big businesses have this equipment ready. Also, in order to sum it up, Mark.
Yeah, well, I was going to let everybody sum up their main point, basically. I mean, we're closing out the event here, so 2 minutes, looking into 2025, right? What are the core, I guess, features of your plan? I mean, we haven't talked about blackouts and how that's going to impact production or consumer demand. We haven't talked about things like war risk insurance and maybe that developing stronger into next year, or pressure from the business community to help develop war risk insurance more seriously. But any of these topics, as you're thinking about your plan, I mean, look, we're planning in such uncertain times, and we're looking ahead 12 months, 18 months, and trying to forecast where the business will be. What are the key headaches in your mind of the topics I've just mentioned that are really influencing your planning? So all four of you I'd like to hear from, so I'd let whoever would like to start.
We'll start with Ievgenii, so let's go other way, backwards, yeah.
I would say the most important for us is secure safety for our employees. We are closing our stores during the alarms. That's hit our business really a lot, but we do not compromise on this one. I think that will be the priority number one. We will continue developing. We have plans to open another 9-10 stores, rearrange another 12 stores. We will be doing business, and we will be as flexible, as adjustable to survive in this situation.
Yeah. Thank you, Ievgenii. Oliver?
Yeah, we continue with our investment. 2/3 are already installed, so 1/3 is still to be done. So we are continuing with that. That's a big topic for us. Another one is to see how the agriculture develops. It's not to be expected that arable land will be recovered. Demining is a big topic where we are engaged. So how fast will that be? How fast can arable land be returned to farmers to really grow corn on that? I think that's important for the farmers, it's important for the country, also for the export business. Mm-hmm. We will see how the demand in the European Union develops, because a lot of our investment is also for the export. So these are parameters that are of high importance for us. And I think the other businesses are rather relatively stable. Pharma, yeah, people get ill, people need to get healthy, and therefore medicines is a rather stable business here. And non-prescription drugs, I wouldn't expect too much. So I would say 25 is probably rather a stable year. I wouldn't expect something very spectacular. Hoping for a little growth, hoping for stability in economy, in exchange rate. That would be very good for us.
Thank you, Oliver.
2025, I would say you are asking headaches and opportunities. Few headaches, for sure. One is the business continuity in many aspects. As you said, Oliver, I think we all were focused on safety of our people from a financial point of view and from a physical point of view. Now our focus is on the mental. mental safety, and ensure that we activate ourselves properly to help our people, 5,500 employees that we have, on cope with the stress of 3 years. Another headache a little bit is really on the resources, as I mentioned. This new factory, we are struggling to find 300 people that we need, skilled people. So we are reskilling our people, we are upskilling our people. We are also rehiring people that retired, because of course they have quite a good quantity of the right skills for us. So business continuity a little bit, and the energy availability. All our factories now are able to run, but as you said, also we stop every time we have an alarm, and you can imagine that you stop a factory, you don't restart like a car. It takes time to restart. There is a lot of waste, etc., etc. So business continuity in this sense. But on the positive note, I would say there's a lot to be proud of, and a lot of what I can say is that adjust and adapt has been our two words from the beginning of the war. Adjust and adapt. Adjust, and Ukrainians have been able to show this agility and adaptability over the course of the last 3 years and even before. So I can count on that. I'm counting on that. That's what gives me the sign of optimism. We develop our jargon in Nestlé. We call it eternal resilience and creativity. And I want to focus on the creativity part. Because resilience, I think everybody understands, and Ukrainians are the symbol of resilience worldwide. And we can write books about it. But symbol of creativity as well. Imagination. Starting from our army that is constantly creative in how to defeat this evil and enemy, and entering in their territories was an example of creativity. So we are inspired by that, and I'm convinced that we will continue to be eternal, resilient, and creative. And therefore, this inspires me.
Thank you. Thank you, Alessandro.
Yeah.
Yannis?
100%. Everything that has been told and recently, about the resilience and creativity. And I would add to this the execution capacity, because I haven't seen such a fast execution of getting an idea and moving it here, amazing. I haven't seen, and I've been for many years in this country, but now this has been tested and it is proven. I'm very positive for next year, as long as the intensity actually does not change, because we know how it is at this level of bad activity. Unfortunately, the banks make money when the interest rates are very high. And when they're low, they're not making money. So we're now in this position where the interest rates are low, high for you. In terms of, above inflation, you have a positive carry, about 3% in what you're getting in. Actually 6%, because there's 15 actually the rates now. But for us, it's a very increased cost, because what you see is not the reality, in the sense that a dollar, for example, that you deposit in the bank here in Ukraine, for certain reasons, because there are other things, technical costs, before we pay interest rate to the customer, 5%. So if you hold dollars in the bank, before you pay interest and increase your cost, you have to pay 5% effectively through by financing the reserve requirements, which is, I understand, it's the same like the tax. This is the war. However, I'm very optimistic, because we will be entering into this increase in lending. I'm also very optimistic because I've seen the IFIs adjusting as well, because most of the products have been for the small enterprises and medium, small, medium, but that would not move the needle. You need the medium corporates come into the play, and we see now that, for example, one of the organizations that we will be having this guarantee for a large amount of the capital we will be lending. That's a very good program. It was for $15 million sales, which is a very small, company. And now IFC and the rest are moving into actually catering for mid-corporates. So that will be also an add-on and a big relief for the economic activity.
Alessandro, you wanted to add something?
No, I wanted to add that thanks to the resilience of the banks, because at the beginning of the war we were very scared about will the banking system resist, will the internet connection be available, will we be able to operate from that point of view. Well, thanks to the banking system, has been incredibly resistant, and that's also one of the reasons business can continue. So,
Gentlemen,
Yes.
thank you so much. Please, Yannis, Alessandro, Oliver, Ievgenii, please give a round of applause. That's a great conversation.
Thanks, guys.
I mean, this is what we're truly looking for. We don't want to be like anybody else. On December 13th, please, you're welcome to come. We have our next event. Again, thanks to our general sponsor, Piraeus Bank, and Yannis himself.
Yes.